Mm.
I am recording. It's in progress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, hey, what? Hmm. Hey
oh,
to
I was
me.
gonna
Hey
look
to
up the
them.
number.
Hey to the
Hey,
listen.
hey,
Hey
there's a
to the
number.
listener.
Hey,
74.
listener. Your
74. It's number
horses. Hey,
74.
horses. Okay, good.
In at number 74, it's Capernaum.
Are we
Yeah,
sure
me
that's how you
neither.
say it? Are any of us sure how to
No,
say it?
I think
Okay.
it's
I've
Capernaum.
heard it Capernaum. It's like
It's
Oh
town from
yeah.
the Bible.
yeah, it's the town Jesus doesn't like
Yes.
or something.
But it also could be translated as chaos.
Oh yeah,
But
and
yeah,
then
but
the
that's in reference to the town from the Bible.
yeah. And
Yes.
and then the file name that I got came in with one of those bizarre spellings that don't make any sense. That's just got to be a mistake. Capharnaum. That
It is. That's
No,
one of
it's
those
fine.
R. No,
spellings.
I
I've
guess
got
that's
it right
right.
here. Hey,
Yeah,
Uh,
you
well,
could
it's
have could have been worse. You could have gotten Kafanahum with lines over the A and U.
okay. Well, this is a podcast where we just say letters, I guess. That's cool. Being
Yep.
films and filth. This isn't Cane of podcasting. You said the movie. This is Matt.
This is Mark, brought to you by letter M.
just Luke. I'm Elle and the world's greatest detective.
So
You,
this is a
you like how I took
blockbuster
M from you, Matt?
movie. This is a blockbuster. You guys aware of that?
In
Yes.
China.
In the
Yes.
Arabic world, the highest
No,
grossing
China.
Middle Eastern film of all time in China, I guess. Okay.
It
Yeah,
made
most of
58
its money
million,
was made in China.
Oh,
which
68 and a half worldwide, which is for this kind of movie is pretty impressive because it doesn't have like effects or
It's like 60 something worldwide, 50 something of which was China.
oh,
yes.
okay. So I guess it's like the feel good movie of the Chinese New Year.
I mean, depends on your definition of feel good. Do you really wish that Bart Simpson was Lebanese and sold drugs and sold babies and it was depressing?
I
Then
was actually watching
absolutely this.
I watched a classic Simpsons last night I never seen.
Hmm.
I watched the one where Sideshow Bob runs for mayor, which includes Mayor Quimby completely flubbing it at a debate.
I think I have seen that one, but yeah.
So it's another one where it's just you feel like, wait a minute, the Simpsons have predicted it 25 years early. That's crazy. 30 years early, actually. Yeah, wild. It was just like the exact same debate scene. It was weird.
Hmm.
But I hadn't seen that one
Well,
before with Sideshow Bob
yeah.
Roberts. So, okay.
Since I have seen that one, it's just since The Simpsons has put out now 300,000 episodes, they'll predict everything eventually.
That's
Yeah, but there's
true.
only there's only like 8 seasons that are actually worth watching. So if you predict it within those seasons, it's still impressive.
Yes, yes. It was season 6, which is one of the goodies. Because I wanted to watch Itchy and
Yeah.
Scratchy Land, and that was one after it. So,
Mm.
I
hmm.
I will generously extend that to some of season 10. But
Yeah, sure.
anyway.
No, I'm skipping one.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. That's a good call. So
So,
anyway,
Capernaum. Now, did anyone know about this movie previous to us stumbling upon it on this list?
No, had I
no.
known about it in advance, I would have tried to get a guest on.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm half Lebanese. You can have half of me as a guest.
All right.
I've never been to
That is cool.
Lebanon. I don't speak Arabic. The adults yelling uncomfortably reminded me of my dad.
Mm.
I definitely saw a lot of my depressed self in this kid. Um, I was not crazy about this film overall, though.
Well, it's not really a fun watch, is it?
I
It was
love the middle.
a more fun watch than I was expecting. The
That is
website I
true.
watched it on had like a comment underneath who was talking about it like, oh, this is just relentlessly miserable. And kind of in the way that Requiem for a Dream was, like they were saying, like this is just so miserable it almost becomes a joke. But I don't feel like that's what this film was. I feel like there was like moments of levity and there was moments of kindness, and it was actually much more watchable than like I hated Requiem for a Dream. I thought it was, misery porn. Whereas this actually felt like it had a lot more of a human heart to it.
There's
I
one. So this gives you, I mean, it's a biased thing because it's a film, but I assume we're getting a window into cultures that we know little about in our first world nations. It did make me think a lot about the movie City of God, which we will be getting to later on the list, and
yes,
I like that movie a lot better, to be honest. But
I do
this one's
too.
still interesting. Yeah.
This is the issue I had with it is not has nothing to do with it being depressing. The issue I have with it is that the end of it is way too tidy and kind of preachy. And I
Mm.
loved the middle. The middle of it where it's just the kid and the baby just trying to get by was, if that was the whole movie and nothing else happened, I would absolutely be in love with it. It's just sort of the court stuff. It kind of fell apart to me because it was all too like in the weird thing where they're like, oh, they just went and got the baby back and gave it to her. Like it doesn't commit to the naturalism 100%. So I do feel like I'm maybe nitpicking a little bit. Also, it looks like one of our mid 2000s bad list movies. Like it has the color palette of The Fog or Wicker Man or Street Fighter Chun Li, and
Mm.
that I don't think I wish it was more colorful, and that would just take somebody regrading the color. It just didn't have to look like that.
I
So
mean,
I
I guess the slums of Beirut maybe aren't that colorful. I
Well,
don't know. The slums
this
of
is the
Brazil
thing.
were colorful in City of God, so
I think it was a trend because this was the second Arabic language film to be nominated for an Oscar, I believe. The first one was it was called The Insult, but it was from 2017 and it looks exactly like this. And but
Mm.
that movie is about like a Palestinian and a Lebanese Christian who end up in a some kind of argument that ends up in court.
Well,
I
what's
have not
interesting
watched.
is this is the color palette that Hollywood films display the Middle East in.
Yeah,
Like,
it's almost like it bled over. It's really strange, but this is much more recent than a lot
yeah.
of the stuff I'm thinking of. But
So yeah, I am kind of surprised it didn't make more of an effort to be like show more actual colors because I'm sure that there are a lot more colors there than browns and grays. But then also it was trying to present this deliberately sort of depressing, oppressive atmosphere.
yeah, it's a mood, and I can't. And again, if everyone in Lebanon is filming stuff like this, I can't really fault them because I'm sure they send it to a production house and they're like, "Oh, it's supposed to look like this," and then
Um,
it's
so this film's director is Canadian Lebanese,
mm-hmm.
and she has made other films. And she definitely did all this editing herself. I listened to some interviews with her and stuff. They filmed over 6 months, 500 hours of footage, and then
Yeah,
spent like a year or 2 years editing it down to a film.
yeah. Apparently,
Um,
she fashioned this after stuff that she went through and the people in the film went through,
yeah.
right?
Like they had specific, they recreated specific scenes. She's the only actor in it who's acted before. She's the kid's lawyer. Everyone else in it was just a real person, like from these situations.
But
Like the main kid is like a Syrian refugee who grew up in Lebanon, or the other way around, maybe.
he was a Syrian refugee. I think he immigrated to Lebanon, but now he's in Norway. His other credit is in the Eternals.
wait,
He
he's
was
in
in the
Norway now.
Eternals.
Does it that then he's a Syrian refugee?
Yeah,
That
he
could
made it.
okay. I guess they were just yeah, sure. I was just like that
Don't
seems
you love it?
because I was like, oh, they based on him. I was like, wait, that happened later. Okay.
That kid is incredible. Like that's the main thing is that kid is incredible. The baby is incredible. Like this is might be
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
yeah, I
best
definitely
baby
know it's a baby. I was
performance.
like, how they manage that?
Oh man,
Well, that's it. By actually just doing this for 500 hours,
Yeah.
they
that
can
makes
just
sense.
find the moments where the baby did what they wanted it to do.
The baby also the baby's name is Bolawatif Treasure Bankole, which is an amazing name.
Yeah, yeah. The baby is also a she.
Oh well, there you go. I did not know that.
Yep.
No, I was recently hearing someone saying about film editing. Like I think in terms of industrial films, but it translates to something like this, where in the past for you'd shoot 7 minutes for like maybe every 1 minute that makes it to the final version, whereas
Mm.
now it's becoming something more like you'll shoot 500 minutes for every minute that makes it to the final version. This is but that because of digital, you
Yeah,
don't
because
have
you're
to.
not wasting spools of film anymore. Yeah.
But it is making editing like very much a needle in a haystack thing these days.
Which is
So
probably also resulting in less interesting choices, right?
yeah.
Because
But I'm saying in
they're
this
just
case, maybe that's how it
Rogue
worked, having
One.
that,
Mhm.
500 minutes for 1 minute of film. That's how you get the baby to
Yes. Well,
become
that's
on the
also
screen.
like
Yeah.
that was a case. That wasn't a case of them like reshooting the same scenes or whatever. That was just them
Letting the
basically
cameras roll.
following these kids. Yeah, living some, you know, Hopefully not literally. Like, hopefully they were going home and sleeping in a bed during filming.
Yeah,
Although
there's
But
some
like
stuff
some
where like
version of this life.
I was like, is it okay to tie this kid's leg to a pole? Like, probably he doesn't or she
Yeah, I
doesn't
mean, I
seem
guess this is a
unhappy.
professional enough production. At least got a trailer behind the camera or
I
something.
mean, yeah, this is, Herzog used to make movies like this. It's just he would often just take whatever he got. And I don't think he shot all that much, but also he didn't have kids to work with. And um yeah, I love this style. It's the like Matt was saying, City of God is I don't we'll get to it eventually. I haven't like looked up how they made City of God, but it is sort of a more satisfying story.
That one
But
just has some crack and pacing. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have like that
it
weird, very small strain of schmaltz. That's
um
the thing. If they went harder on the schmaltz,
yeah.
maybe it would have been better.
I
But it's just a little bit, you know.
But this thing, I mean, mild spoilers for City of God, you basically in the first 20 minutes, there's like a 5-year-old just like shooting people with a pistol. So I mean, that different than
Yeah.
this.
Well, how about for this one? I guess we should somewhat front load this one with the story
Oh
since
yeah.
it's not the best
All
known
right.
of movies.
Zain El Hajj is a 12-year-old living in the slums of Beirut with his parents and 7 younger siblings, and he works as a delivery boy for their landlord Assad when he isn't selling tramadol he gets from forged prescriptions. When he discovers his 11-year-old sister Sahar had her first period, he helps her conceal the evidence, worrying that she'll be married off to Assad. And his suspicions are confirmed as they trade her to him for 2 chickens. His parents, that is. Um, the chickens aren't his parents. The chickens. Oh, okay.
They trade the
Zion,
sister for the chickens,
yes. Could have
yes.
written that better. Thank you. Zayn angrily runs away and ends up in a carnival where he meets Rahil, an Ethiopian immigrant working at the park. He later is taken in by her and babysits her undocumented infant son Jonas in exchange for being allowed to stay there. Rahil's forged documents are set to expire soon, and she's unable to negotiate with Aspro, who originally forged her documents, because he wants her son in exchange for the documents, and she's not interested in that deal. However, Rahil is soon arrested by Lebanese authorities, and after realizing she isn't coming back, Zayn takes Jonas out with him to begin looking for her, find some food, and sell some more tramadol. He meets a young Syrian refugee named Maysoon who says that Aspro has agreed to help smuggle her to Sweden, and Zayn reluctantly agrees to trade Jonas to Aspro in exchange for helping smuggle him to Sweden as well. Aspro says that Zayn will need his papers, so he goes back to his own home to find them, but his parents tell him they don't have any papers for him, and they also reveal that Sahar has died due to complications with her pregnancy. Zayn then takes a knife and stabs Assad and is sentenced to 5 years in prison, and afterwards sues his parents for neglect. Thankfully, Aspro is raided after Zayn's trial, and Jonas is reunited with Rahil in prison. But later, when visiting, Zayn's mother says she's pregnant again and is going to name the child Sahar, and he tells her never wants to see her again. And then he calls into a talk show from prison to tell everyone that life is shit and they should stop having children.
So I
Well,
think the bit that wouldn't have come across from that, which we should probably let the audience know, it's all framed as like we start with him suing the parents and it's all flashback.
Yes, there's a
So
little flash forward in it.
yeah, so if you come to the film with like the concept, oh yeah, it's about a kid suing his parents for being born. Like that, because I think Matt, you before we saw this film, you'd read that it was like
that was a one sentence
one of the top
description. Yeah.
comedies, right? Yeah.
That was a big thing in the marketing, and I didn't realize it was happening. I thought the trial we were watching was his trial for stabbing the guy,
Mm.
or the court proceedings. I thought that was
But
the
no, yeah, it was
court
after the fact.
stabbing the
Yeah,
guy.
I did pick up
Yeah,
on it, but it was like way less of a factor in the film. I guess because they filmed such a sort of disparate, just a bunch of stuff happening,
hmm
they had to add that to give it some sort of filmic structure.
yeah, and you don't really see it. That was sort of the issue I had with the ending, was that at the beginning you find out he stabs the guy, and at the end you don't. Well, okay, I don't need to see him stab the guy, but it also is the most predictable thing, because I thought it might tie into Aspro or something else, but it just was sort of this bookended thing where he just finds out what happened, gets mad, stabs the guy, which
I was
He's the op-
disappointed that the guy lived. and we
Yeah,
didn't
me
get to
too.
see it. I
Me too.
wanted
He
to see
looked fine.
that guy was a piece of shit, and I was kind of when I realized that's who he was going to stab, I was like, oh, good.
Yeah, of
Which
course.
Stab a
maybe
few
it's
more
not the
times.
best.
I mean, 11 year, like what the hell? And I guess he sent them the hospital bill, like the family. Like
Yeah.
I didn't get entirely gather how they ended up with a hospital bill, but yeah, if you marry somebody, dude, you pay their hospital bill. Also, don't marry 11-year-olds at
Hmm.
all. Don't do any of that. Anyway, yeah, he could have died and it wouldn't have really changed anything except for making the movie a little bit more satisfying. But
Maybe that's
um
why, you know.
Well, I guess like
Like
you're saying, where no one's
it would have gone
connected.
against the point of the film to give the kid that much power.
I guess that's true. I mean that is sort of the naturalistic thing to do. It's just, well, it just keeps going.
I mean, it's kind of more realistic when none of the disparate threads are connected. You know, that's like the Star Wars problem, right? Everyone's related to everyone, knows everybody. Here, you know, none of these people know each
Mhm.
other because they live in a big city. I mean, they could
But
know each other.
that
Well,
again, listening to interviews with the director, that was part of the point. So her previous films have dealt in somewhat similar, like, you know, people struggling, but they've always been a lot more about community, apparently. And she was saying like she was trying to show that like these undocumented people, they don't even have that basis of community. They can't have that. So you know, people can know and help each other on a sort of an individual level, but it's not a case where people know each other because they just can't. They don't exist.
Right.
and also, yeah, that guy who's the guy who forges documents is also the guy who wants you to trade in the baby. You know, it's like, and also he's the same guy that's maybe helping a young girl get to Sweden, or maybe that was just a total lie so he could just
Well, so he
traffic
was
her.
saying that the baby was his, right?
I think
And
I don't
I wasn't sure if I was meant to believe that or not.
I think that he was just saying that she owed him, and that I I I don't, like, as in he fathered the kid. I didn't pick that up, but
Yeah.
I might have
There's
missed
he's saying
that.
like, look, we're related. Look, we have the same nose, stuff like that.
Hmm.
I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
maybe
He's
I
He
a
was
seemed
more
like,
mistaken
I
something.
sinister,
mean,
but
he's one of those guys where everything he says seems, you know,
Yeah.
it's
like a
bullshit.
line.
Like you can't
It may
trust anything he
be
says.
obviously I'm relying on subtitles and I'm not very used to listening to Arabic at all. So there are probably a lot of nuances I wasn't picking up on. Where even in like a film that was in like Japanese or Spanish where I was relying on subtitles, I'm better at picking up the nuance of what people are saying in those languages.
Yeah. I yeah, I'm not really sure. It's hard to find because the synopsis, I copied a lot of my summary from the IMDb or the Wikipedia synopsis, which itself
Mm,
left out details. Like that
yeah.
completely left out the suing of the parents. Um, so
Huh.
Yeah, see,
um,
like the chickens. You really have to be paying attention to realize that's the trade, like on
I did
screen.
not. I didn't get that. I thought that it was just they got some chickens. I didn't. It didn't connect for me. So that is that's very sad. You know, it's just
Okay,
part of the.
You so
this seems to happen a lot where I did get these little things that you guys didn't.
well, I got it, but so like you watch a movie and then watch some interviews with the director, which is a valid way to go about it. I before watching a movie, I just read the entire wiki page. It's
Mm.
just one where I was like, I
Huh.
want to know where this is going, what it is. I don't want to like be figuring out like as I'm watching it, which I don't think that's a wrong way to watch a film, especially a film like this, you know. The new
Here's
Star
my.
Wars, again, maybe you don't want to do that, but this film, it's nice to come in with a. I mean, we're so far out of context. It's nice to read a little context before starting, you know.
This
That
is,
makes some
well,
sense.
the thing is, I almost always will watch the movie on the left half of the screen and take notes on the right half of the screen. And when a movie has subtitles, then sometimes I am typing and like half paying attention to stuff on the left. And what I need to start doing, well, I've done this a few times where I go back and take notes later after watching it. I think a
Mm.
lot of our friends who have podcasts will watch stuff multiple times.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch movies multiple times,
No,
but
I don't think, and most movie podcasts don't do that unless they're just doing the same film every week. We're doing it again.
No,
how
I
many
think
movie
most
podcasts?
movie podcasts that are like professional do.
Yeah,
But
maybe twice. Maybe twice. But I mean, it is difficult to read subtitles while typing your own thoughts at the same time. So I might miss stuff like that. If it's something I hate, then I'll just browse the internet on my right side of the screen while I'm watching it. But I did not hate this. I criticize it lightly because I feel like it could have been a little bit better, but it was pretty cool, especially the middle. I mean,
Yeah.
the middle being most of it. I mean, you know,
I accidentally left the subtitles off for 5 minutes and didn't notice, but that was in like in the middle where they're just running around town. So I guess there wasn't anything to hear anyway, or
there,
to subtitle.
yeah, the whole this reminds me of there are a lot of different movies where it's sort of this one guy is a scumbag but likable and kind of knows everything and you follow him the whole time, kind of like Mallrats. This kind of like reminded me of one of those, but it's a literal child. And yeah, that kid's great, man. There's so many people who can't even act when they turn 17.
Yeah.
And this kid is like killing it at 12. But
It is interesting. What snaps, not snaps, what connects in a kid's mind? What is it? Who's the girl in Signs? Like she's really good in there. I mean, now
didn't
she's
see
a
it.
grown actress, but um,
Well, the other thing about this kid, he's just acting the life that he had been living.
Yep.
that's true. Whereas I was who am I thinking about here?
Like I think there are even scenes that he brought to the table because they were experiences he'd had,
Oh, Abigail
or
Breslin, who is in
little
Signs at
ideas
like
that he'd
age
come up
4,
with.
yeah. But then we have
Like,
Baby here knocking it out of the park, and not knowing it, of course. But
yeah,
Do we have M. Night Shyamalan on the bad list?
I think so. Seems like we would.
Like
Maybe
The
Eric.
Happening should be on there, right?
You know what? It might not be.
I told myself
No,
I'd stop doing this.
you just found that on the mid. Remember, you found The Happening
Oh
as a
yes,
mid.
that was 5.
Yeah, Happening was a mid.
We've been dabbling at just looking at the 5.0 list, Luke. Just a warning for maybe the distant future.
that sounds even worse than doing this.
Yeah, it's really
Well, that's
mid.
thing. We are the judge.
No, it's really
Like,
mid.
we really don't know if it's
I didn't
film or
really
film.
necessarily agree that was a great idea, having looked at this.
No, and I did, and just because I talk about something doesn't mean it'll happen.
No.
We don't know that.
Sorry, Luke. I feel like you were in the middle of a point where I was sitting here trying to work out the ages and names of actors.
No, I pretty much made my point, just saying that, like, yeah, Zane, the actor and the character are both good. Zane, by the way.
Right.
Yes.
There were bits in the film which were like, he would tell her like, "Oh, this happened to me," and they would just put it in the film. And also, like, for example, the little wagon he makes to pull the baby around on was not something that had happened in his real life, but it was what, like, she was like, "Okay, what would you do in this situation?" And that was his little scheme he came up with.
Yeah, I mean, there are these little corners of weird levity in this film, like pulling the shirt down on the amusement park ride.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's that. There was Cockroach Man. Yeah, that's pretty weird.
Yeah. There's apparently there's a deleted scene where Cockroach Man helps what's her name with something. Raheel with something. Yeah. I didn't look too far into it, but
for listeners who didn't watch the film, Cockroach Man is an old man in a knockoff Spider-Man costume that he meets on the bus.
Yeah,
and that's why he decides. That's why he decides to get off at the fairground.
Yeah.
And yeah, that fairground has like a big statue of a lady with a shirt just about covering her boobs. So he pulls the shirt away so her boobs are showing.
Right.
Which is the moment that Raheel sees him and laughs and basically becomes friends with him, I think.
What's the name of the guy from One Direction? Is that Zan?
Harry Styles? Oh, I think that is Zane.
Zane.
Is it Zane? Okay.
Zayn.
Yeah, I guess that's still Zane. Okay, that was just like
spelled in a more annoying way.
I don't know. Yeah, it's spelled in a more annoying way, but that was just like weirdly stuck in the back of my head.
No. Let's literally tell our listeners that this stars Zane from One Direction. 90% of them aren't going to go and watch the film. So,
regardless of how homeless he was during this movie, his hair was,
there was a part of me that was thinking like, if you really want me to believe that these kids are this down on their luck, you really shouldn't have like the perfect Edward from
Yeah.
Twilight hair for the whole film.
Yeah, yeah. You give him a bowl cut or
Well, they
something.
got him a
like,
haircut at some point, right?
or just shave
Like,
his
but
head.
his hair should not have that perfect volume when he's like showering in car washes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a shitty onsen. Okay, that was my note at least.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. Did you have it?
So
What?
I am I had a little glance at like Wikipedia. It shows gives you a little smattering of like what critics said at the time. And there was a line in there which really spoke to me where someone had said like it's kind of the ultimate pro-choice movie.
I,
Like,
I saw a number of comments like that, and I kind of disagree, but
okay,
I could see
because
I could
like the daughter literally dies from a pregnancy that should have been terminated because she's 11 years old.
yes.
His
Yes.
whole message of like his court case and phoning to TV is like, hey, if you can't take care of kids, don't have them.
Yeah, I guess it's like I don't agree. I don't disagree that it's a pro-choice movie. I just a lot of comments said this movie is like a contraceptive. Where I'm kind of like, okay, well, yes, people who can't take care of 7 children should not have 7 children. It's
Hmm.
it's society's fault if people can't take care of one child.
Oh,
You know what
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Oh,
Right, but that's it. They
it's
probably
not
could have taken care. Maybe they could have taken care of one child, and
yeah,
like his
maybe.
sister could have had a child, 7 years later, and it would have been
Yes,
appropriate,
yes.
right? Like,
Oh
there's a
boy.
difference, but like it's called pro-choice. It's not called pro-eliminate
Yeah,
all pregnancies.
you're right. You're right. Yeah, I hadn't even really thought about that because I guess just abortion wasn't even on my mind because I was just thinking of
I
poverty
don't
of
know.
all
I
things.
wonder if it would have been if I hadn't seen the comment in advance.
Mm.
But I saw that actually before I watched the film. And so I was picking up on like, oh yeah, like he's literally giving a big speech about don't have kids if you can't take care of them. The sister literally died from a pregnancy. So like this is definitely something that they want you to think about.
Although,
I
yeah,
was
when
just thinking
mom
about,
says she's pregnant again, you do like very, you have the same like what the
uh
fuck reaction, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't,
yeah,
I don't get that. Are they just too horny? I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they're probably horny and religious,
Mm.
and probably maybe can't even afford contraceptive
Right. That's what I'm
measures.
kind of getting at. But yeah, I don't
see,
know.
this
So, but
is
like, Mercy tells me about people she knows who are very Catholic and like have had to be told by the doctor, look, stop having kids. It's not good for you to have this many this quick or whatever.
yeah, it's a completely different situation, but definitely my parents were miserable, and it was definitely something where my dad never would have like sanctioned a divorce because it wouldn't have looked good. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's definitely sort of a I heard like secondhand that one of my like distant cousins was disappointed that I was working a delivery job like many 20 years ago. Like, okay, great, man. I don't know who you are. I'm sorry if you're disappointed if you're listening to this. Like, they're probably mad that I have a podcast if they still know who I am. Is this I'm sorry to derail a little bit. Is this the first movie we've done, period, that's been directed by a woman? Because I am scanning. I've been scanning for the last couple of minutes, and I think it might be.
How about
Damn.
when we did a Black Christmas?
Oh, okay. Okay, never mind. So Black Christmas, which is I think we kind of liked that. So
Well, we at
anyway,
least said it's
neither
good
here
for
nor
its
there.
audience. Yeah. I think that was a
Yeah,
big
I think we
takeaway
we
from that one.
definitely were not like we didn't think it should be on
Yeah.
the bad list.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's where we are. Many, many films later. The first good list film directed by a woman, as far as I can tell from scanning the list.
We might have hit one when we were doing the strike films, but I cannot remember. So, um,
Possible.
this movie infected my dream, by the way, in a really dumb way.
Hmm.
I was just looking because I so in my dream I apparently found that the Chicago Sun-Times, the Ebert site, obviously not Ebert himself because he's dead, had given this movie 1 star. I was like, oh, I'll read that instead of the IMDb one. But that was a dream. Actually, that the Sun-Times gave it 3.5 stars. So I dreamed last night that the Chicago Sun-Times gave Capernaum a 1 star review.
That is, this podcast is destroying your brain. Anyway, that's great.
It's kind of fun though. I just had to check. Well, it's like a few months ago when I actually thought George Lucas was dead for about 3 days till I finally decided to double check that.
I mean, there were some. I mean, linked
I read
on
news
Wikipedia.
in my dreams. Okay.
Linked on Wikipedia, there were some kind of interesting, like middling reviews because I was sort of just, I don't know, I just went down that rabbit hole for no particular reason.
I mean, that happens with any prestige film where, like if it's not like from a known quantity, I guess she's somewhat known quantity, but not in the States or something, right? So you're going to get people that just can't make head or tail of it and don't catch the vibe,
And interestingly, like it has a lot of very verbose, well thought out 1-star reviews, but that could just be people mad that it's a woman director. I don't know.
We'll get to that in a few minutes, I guess.
To sound very intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, there are some good points made. Anyway.
The film obviously is it's an activist film. It wants to bring about change. And I think if I was going to criticize it on that spectrum, it shows the way these people are suffering or the way they are, living. But it doesn't show the cause of what I can do about it. Like the reason these people are in this situation is because of all the wars and the awful governments that are being propped up by our governments and stuff like I don't know. I feel like this is a step 1 and step 2 is hey, here's the reason these countries are like this and who you should stop voting for if you want to make a change, sort of thing.
Yeah, Beirut was a tourist trap in the 60s. Like it was like, go to
There's
Beirut. That's like saying go to, Aruba or something.
If you want to look up something interesting that you probably can't possibly wrap your head around actually happening, look up the Beirut Holiday Inn.
From the 60s, is it?
There was a Holiday Inn, yeah, I think it's a 76.
Okay, that sounds right. I think I've seen this picture before.
Yes, okay. Holiday Inn Beirut. It's still standing. It opened in 1974, and then it was basically abandoned in 1975 and was just used as a constant. Like if you've played Fallout and there's like a building that's named that where you can go and like shoot people and take stuff, this is basically it. It is wild. There's the Wikipedia has a picture of it from 2014 and it looks
they built it right at the end of it being a place to visit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was just
so
like
that's 74, 75.
time.
Yeah, because the 60s I know was go to Beirut, it's nice. When did their port explode? That happened recently.
Oh,
before or after this movie?
2018, 2019.
Okay.
It was a little after this film, but yeah, I do remember that actually. Yeah.
Also because they're referring to the port a lot in this movie, right? So
also this film would have the filming would have been happening in 2016, 2017 because it was that long editing process.
Yeah. So
that was 2020, so it was into the pandemic, basically August 2020, the explosion. So after this,
right. So I mean that probably did not help the city much.
No, I mean it's really telling to me that this is the first Arabic language film to break the IMDb top 250, and it's basically like the main character of the film is like, I live in hell, fuck Lebanon, I hate myself, eat shit, whatever. And it's a weird lens.
I'm trying to think of what other Arabic language films I've seen. I saw something Iranian when I was in uni that was pretty good, but I cannot recall the title for my life.
I saw a short film made in Palestine that was on Netflix. About a marriage that's falling apart because Israel's constantly attacking their city, basically.
Yeah.
Called Condom Led.
I mean, I guess
Israel is gearing up to attack Lebanon again.
The converse to the film would be what, Boggy 3, right? That's where all the hate comes from, people,
Oh, um, are you thinking of Matt? Are you thinking of A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night because that's supposed to be an incredibly good film, but it's a horror movie, so it's not highly rated. It's
Nah, I don't
6.9.
think it was a horror movie. I think it was a drama. Um,
It's Iranian and it looks like it's in black and white.
no,
So
that's definitely not. This had colorful flowers was a big part of the
uh,
motif. So yeah, I'm sitting here trying to talk about a film that I definitely am not recalling well, except for like what the poster looked like, and I remember it had like amazing color, scenery footage. So, but that's
yeah,
not helping anyone. So
no, as ignorant as I am of Indian films, I'm far less aware of stuff in Arabic.
yeah, I guess I'm just
I'm not.
telling. I mean, again, it was like, gee, should we have gotten a guest on for this? Because it's so far out of our element, right? So,
Yeah.
But I think there is there is some,
it's worth watching.
hopefully, yeah, and also hopefully there's some value in like at least us saying like, oh, this did open our eyes a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I didn't like I was not really even aware of where Lebanon was. Um,
Um,
and yeah, like even when I went looking because I thought like I need a bit more context on this, there are not many podcasts about this, and like certainly not from big English language like film podcasts. Very few of them talked about it, even though it was winning awards and stuff.
yeah.
So hope if this podcast does get like one or two extra people to watch it, I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I know we've been approaching this like we're explaining it to people like they may not have watched it because I'm sure there are plenty of people who listen to podcasts without watching the films, the associated
Mm-hmm.
films. Hi. Um, you might watch it. You might enjoy it. It's not a massively depressing film. It's not just a courtroom procedural where a kid's suing his parents the whole time. A lot
Yeah,
of
I
it
was
is just a
I was
vibe.
definitely worried about that.
when I was
So,
watching it, I was describing it to Mercy, and she said it sounds like the sort of film someone pretentious watches to show that they watch interesting films. I was like, actually, watching it, it's not that. It is a film made for human beings to enjoy. But it's also like it had a little bit of the feel of this is a film. If this film had been 30 minutes instead of 120, it would be the kind of film they'd have showed us in a class at school.
Yeah.
But also, I keep trying to say this and getting caught off, distracted. But what the director said was at the end, she's got all of that footage and she wants to maybe make a documentary about the real lives of the actors who made this film. And I almost feel like I would be more interested in watching that than this.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
because
it had kind of a documentary feel anyway. Um, and yeah, just seeing the real people and the real stories, maybe that would be easier for me to digest or more useful for me to digest because she can add some context around the edges without it feeling like exposition, you know?
like I think she's trying to keep, of course, trying to keep it naturalistic, but it's a film. You have to have some artifice. It's kind of like when he
Yeah.
did Das Boot, and John was talking about how once the instant the music came in, it kind of took him out of things, right? Because it
Mm.
seemed so documentary up to that point. I was actually when you're like, oh, you should watch it. I was like, Luke, how did you watch this film?
I put into Google watch Capernaum online
Okay,
and found a
well,
website.
I was just curious if this was something
I
you can
was
actually watch
on
on
it was on
YouTube.
Amazon Prime, but it would have been in Arabic with Japanese subtitles, so
Right, right.
not of
Mm.
much use for me.
No, I was just curious if this was something you could watch on YouTube, which it is not. So, because
No.
sometimes something like this end up on YouTube
I
or whatever.
think it is at least when it came the couple of bits and bobs I found that I listened to were talking about it being on Netflix. I don't know if it still is, but yeah, it might be that in the countries where most of our listeners are, they can just watch it on Netflix.
Yeah, you can buy or rent it on YouTube here, but it's also looks
Mhm.
like it's in Japanese subtitles. It's all the descriptions in Japanese. So,
Mhm.
but that's because I'm looking at it in Japan.
Yeah.
Of course, like getting something. Here's the one that your documentary versus this is still somewhat scripted. I mean, it looks like they did a lot of probably improvising, but this video is titled "If Capernaum Doesn't Break Your Heart, You Have No Heart." And some of the reviews are like, "Oh, it's just one tear jerk scene after another." But
Yeah,
something
that's
of
what I was talking about. Like, that's what I'd heard before I watched it.
right, but
That was
that's not how it
off-putting.
played for me. It's not a
No,
movie
not at
that
all.
made me cry or anything, I Yeah, I guess I have no heart, but I'm trying to work out
Well,
what the difference between this and an actual tearjerker, at least by my definition, is.
I,
Because things are horrible in here.
I'm not. Yeah, I didn't really feel that either, and it was weird because a lot of people accused it of being a tearjerker, and a lot of people accused it of being like a desperate attempt at being a tearjerker that failed, and I didn't really, maybe I'm really hardened and not upset enough by just watching people's day-to-day lives, or maybe
Could
it.
it be how steely the undocumented people get with what is the Ethiopian theme park Ra
And I mean,
Raheel.
maybe I don't
her
know.
yeah, her and Zane both are just like very steely. It's like, yeah, horrible things happen, but they seem they push through life in a way that they seem to have. It's like they have agency, but in a situation with no agency. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, and also
Yeah.
like it's not like we start off in happy families and then his life turns to tragedy.
Hmm.
He's in this situation from the start. He kind of goes and has some good times with Raheel and the baby, even though they are obviously, on the brink of starvation the whole time. Um, and then like I guess the bit which might have been a tearjerker is like when he found out his sister died and stuff. But like you were saying, Mark, that just felt kind of yeah, that's what happens next in this story, of course.
Well, it was, yeah, that was basically, I don't know if they spelled it out at the beginning, but that's not surprising because he stabbed
Yeah, he
Assad.
stabbed
So
someone. This is the person he's most likely to stab. I don't know if we knew it was a start he stabbed.
Oh,
I think I think he said it as I
He
put it in
said
my
I
notes
stabbed the
early
son of a
on.
bitch.
Yeah, but I put it together that it was Assad
Yeah,
somehow.
I didn't until we got there, and then I was like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, that
Mm,
makes sense. Of course, that's who he stabbed."
yeah,
And then I was, again, like I said, I was disappointed I didn't get to see it, and he didn't die.
I think I don't know. I don't want to like act like I'm special for this, but I mean, I've known a lot of people who were poor and still were happy, and I feel like I see these people living out their lives, and it doesn't feel. I think maybe a lot of people have never, like, I've had friends who would. I'm not naming anybody, but they would like put ice in a bowl and pour water in it and just eat ice soup because
Mm-hmm.
their mom spent all their money on beer. Um, and
But
like they weren't they weren't constantly miserable. They were just you know,
maybe the people calling this like, "Oh, desperate attempt to be a cheerleader or whatever," are people who don't have any awareness of poverty.
it's
Like,
entirely possible.
if you're a middle class white American who's never really struggled, you would feel like, oh, well, this doesn't happen. That's not real. Whereas, like, if you actually have grown up in a country like this, or even just in poverty in a country which does have, you know, better facilities, you would be like, yeah, this is just real life. And yeah, sometimes it's sappy, sometimes it's sad. But
If
yeah,
you
Yeah,
do
I
it's
guess
see
like,
the other thing I did coming in, like I said, I read the wiki before I watched the movie, so I already knew sister was gonna die and all that sort of
mm,
stuff. So maybe I'd already intellectualized it so much that watching the movie, I didn't get as much of an emotional impact because I'd
possibly,
already
possibly.
read the synopsis.
I mean, that's very sad. It's also, we also get all of like 2 minutes to get to know the sister. We spent a lot more. If Jonas had been stabbed, it would have made me a lot sadder. Or not,
Mm.
wait,
If something
stabbed.
had happened, yeah, but if something had
If
happened
something
to
had
Jonas,
happened
yeah.
to him, yeah, that would have made me very, very upset. So that's just how movies work, is you have to give someone time for,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
also that
Like I
might be a
cannot.
cultural thing I
Sure,
don't
it's sad
understand.
for Zayn, but it can't
Mhm.
necessarily be sad for the audience because we don't know her.
Yeah. And but then also the scene where he kind of gives up and gives Jonas over and is kissing him was also, it was
That
sad
bit was
and
pretty sad.
touching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was much. It actually did get me a bit.
Yeah. But it also was, but it wasn't sad in a way that completely crushed me, because it was just like, oh yeah, clearly this guy clearly feels like he needs to do this, and is himself sad for. It's not just like, oh well, my 11-year-old wife is pregnant, please don't isolate that audio. Um, yeah, but I can, I guess I can understand how someone would just watch this and be in total despair the whole time, but I didn't
Mm.
necessarily feel it. Also, I mean, God, like, there's got to be somebody who's just like, that 12-year-old gets to go out and sell drugs and buy stuff at the store and do whatever he wants and make deals. He has the best life ever. Pull the dress off the carnival statue. Yeah, it's like there's some
But yeah,
element where I'm
like
just like, yeah,
people really fetishize, maybe the wrong word, like living in the post-apocalypse, right?
yep.
For having that total freedom or whatever. So I could easily imagine someone watching this and just being like, oh man, yeah, that looks great.
Well, you're describing that Bart Simpson energy from the start of this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's a part of it. Is
Yeah,
that
everything you just said is what Bart Simpson does. But then he goes back to the
Yeah, he has a full tummy at the end of every
yeah.
night
yeah.
and a
Well,
comfortable bed.
and I also don't have kids, so maybe if you have a kid who's 12, you watch this and it's very, very upsetting. Like, it's
I
like
mean,
I got,
I don't have kids, and partly by choice. And
yeah,
that's maybe why I the message of this film felt so clear to me,
I
because I was like, yeah, I also kind of feel like a lot of people have kids when they shouldn't. Like, hey,
I
there's no guarantee this world will exist as long as your kids are going to live. Have you really thought this through?
yeah. I mean, I don't. Yeah, big part of why I mostly don't want kids, but also I don't have any money, so can't support kids.
if
But
I
also, I mean,
if
if
I
people really want somebody, then
He went one and done over here. No replacement rate achieved.
if I find myself like wealthy and I become a successful author or whatever, what I'd like to do is adopt or like foster.
I mean, I mean, that's great because aside from that, I think it seems very, very expensive and difficult to do that, like maybe prohibitively so, but I guess you have to weed out people.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't do social work, so I don't know what the statistics are. I've just had friends who have tried to adopt and it's been like very difficult for them, sometimes taking years and
Yeah.
lots and lots of money. However,
But
but
if you're a rich,
I'm
successful author and you have lawyers to
Yeah.
grease the gears.
yeah.
But yeah,
You
that's the
just
thing.
have
Like,
someone
right,
steal the kid. You hire Aspro to steal a kid for you, and then you get the kid. Bingo.
people love to ban abortions. They don't love to make any effort to take care of those kids that now have to exist.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because it's just like banning abortion is just like having a crush on a celebrity. It's like you don't have to actually deal with it with a living human being, so it's very
Hmm.
exciting for you. Or just maybe just a crush on somebody you work with. It's like you don't have to watch them go to the bathroom. So it's all fun.
Unless you
Anyway,
want a sexual harassment
they probably
hit on
do.
you. Well, I mean, if you're watching them go to the bathroom, that happens in Japan. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's different.
People have been
Maybe.
arrested for putting cameras in places.
Not to completely derail this podcast, but what's the abortion laws in Japan? I don't know. I'm not even aware.
I think it's just, as far as I'm aware, it's just easy peasy, no problemo. But
Oh, well, it's
I've
good.
never tried to get one.
I'm I'm scared, so we'll see what happens.
Birth control in Japan is weirdly hard to get hold of. I think you really have to get like a doctor's like prescript. I don't remember. I mean, obviously, I'm not the lady
Yeah, but I
taking, but
think I
remember
think
that being weirdly difficult.
it
Yeah,
does seem like most people in Japan are pretty down with wearing a condom. So
Well, we have a declining
that's also
population.
good.
yeah.
Maybe they're wearing too many condoms.
Mm.
I don't even want to unravel that. I have no idea how to deal with it. What
It'll take a while to
population.
unravel. It's too many condoms.
I don't
Yeah,
want to work on a farm.
just allow all the many immigrants who want to come and take those jobs.
Okay. Yeah, okay, Japan. I'll take over a 78-year-old man's farm if you just let me come to Japan and for free
You can
and
probably manage that, to be
don't
honest.
question my okay. Deal. I'm also abandoning all of my debt in the US.
Well, you're just
I'll
abandoning the
never
US.
come back.
Right. That's what I've been doing. Um, Same.
I have a friend who moved to Mexico and was just in tons of debt. Just left Mexico. That's it.
I don't have the debt. I just didn't bother going back.
Ah, well,
um, I guess no one's gonna call this filth though. It's
I
pretty.
mean,
This is what
I
you
mean,
show in an art house film.
it's
there's
down and
some
dirty in the
mm,
filth, but it is a film.
I mean, am I gonna
film in the
watch
filth.
again? Very likely no.
Yeah, I've watched City of God like 5 times, and
I've
I
seen
don't
that a few times. It's
necessarily
got a
see
little,
this again.
yeah. I mean, it's just I guess it has more pizzazz filmmaking wise, or this is so documentary. It's like this is probably a more like authentic look into this kind of slum because City of God's super
Mhm.
stylized. So
Yeah, the City of God is
so maybe that's more of a
way
film. This is I mean you can't I don't think you'd call it documentary style. Cinema verite is not necessarily filth. So let's
It
done badly.
depends what it's showing, you know.
Well, good point. Well, if it's done badly or if it's yeah, if it's exploitation, I guess nudie cuties from the past, it's kind of like
mhm.
documentaries that could be filth. Not even fun to watch these days. And it's where they just go to the nudist
Oh,
camp and it's a documentary and they're playing volleyball.
well, it's I mean, not
Playing
really.
with the boys.
Maybe not a coincidence, or maybe it is. City of God is very close to Spirited Away on the good list,
Okay.
so that'll be like a little bookend.
Hmm.
Since we,
I guess you have some ones already. I have some ones too, but you seem
yeah,
excited about the
I
one that
have.
you found.
Oh, I have a one
I have
that's.
ones in my panties that the customers put there.
Hmm.
I have a one that's kind of interesting. Okay.
Okay.
Foreign audiences, beware of this. I write this as an NGO worker who was fortunate enough to travel to Cannes, as my husband is a journalist. There was no film I was more eager to see as the subject is related to my exact profession, and I'm a female film lover, always cheering on women directors. Let's just say I was left with far more love for the female directed Happy as Lazaro. I work with street children in Lebanon. As a film lover, I found the film a bit derivative of other films by Danny Boyle, especially in its speed and camera work. But as a human being close to this cause, the film angered me beyond belief. It is pornographic and exploitative, as everyone is saying. The children are cultified, if that could be a word, primed for a foreign audience. The Ethiopian was portrayed as a, quote, magical Negro, quote, clearly implanted into the story as a parachute. The parents are one dimensional and monstrous, which is not the case typically at all. There is no credibility to the story. I hope for a powerful documentary that can serve as rebuttal to what I can only and sadly describe as manipulative Oscar bait, very carefully and so savvily constructed for foreign audiences with good intentions who might not see how awful the film truly is.
You,
81 out of 346 found this helpful.
you read one wrong, which is
What?
you said codified. The children are cutified, if that could be a
Oh,
word. Prime
cutified. I'm
for a
sorry.
foreign
You're right.
audience. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
because I was
Cutified.
saying I didn't codify the children. I'm
That's
just
true.
reading
We
it as
did
Think
well.
they're in a cult.
we did kind of pick up on that a little bit, right?
Well, we said the
Yeah.
documentary that she made with the actual people would be
No,
more
but
interesting,
also
and then
that like he looked like he had his, boy band hair for the whole film.
Yeah.
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 Well, here's another one that's just short. That's the one right after
I
it
also
on
I
mine.
don't necessarily disagree with that assessment that the parents are one dimensional.
Yeah.
I
I
was
mean,
gonna.
even
I was actually gonna ask you guys, like, not without making like a moral judgment. Where in the grayscale do you want to try and throw the parents? Because I wasn't quite
um,
sure what the movie was doing with them. But
Like
well,
a part of their problem is like the system, right? But they took no responsibility for what they like. He's right. They should have stopped having kids.
that's true.
And like Mark said, right? Everyone should have the right to have one, maybe two kids. I don't think everyone should have the right to pump out seven.
Yeah, it's definitely what Octomom territory in this situation, but
Mhm.
I don't know, they did seem we really only see them when they are specifically mad at Zion for something.
Mm.
So I feel like if we watched a lot of day to day and they were angry at him for nothing, it's like I kind of understand them yelling at him and kind of pushing him when he's been gone for like 2 weeks. At
Yeah, and he
least
comes back for
I
papers
understand
they
that.
don't have.
Yeah, at
Also,
least
like,
angry
I
get
mean, the
angry.
fact that she's 11 undermines this a bit, but just the fact
Yeah.
that they married off the daughter, the dad's reasoning that like that was a way to get her out of that life is not completely unfair.
Yeah. Uh Yeah, that's a tough one. I can't. Uh, that
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that that's
it's a choice that none of us will ever have to make in a culture that we don't fully understand. So
I
it is
hope
hard
not.
to judge them completely, right?
Yeah, it is. It's also the film also doesn't it kind of does itself a disservice by not focusing much on that at all. Like it seems to really want to like skip past it really fast, but that's
Mm,
also kind of the worst thing in the film. I mean,
Well,
aside from her dying from, pregnancy, which is
mhm.
well, it's part of that, right? It's just that is gone through so fast, presumably not to subject the audience to a lot of unpleasantness.
mm,
So I don't know what the answer to that is, but that to me is much sadder than a couple of kids hanging out on the street selling tramadol.
yeah. Yeah, like most of the scenes of just the kids, getting by were kind of fun and games about Simpsons hijinks in a way.
Yeah.
And it's just the bookended sections where you see like why he was living like this is because he was escaping this life.
Yeah,
And
I
but
mean,
I can also understand why his parents are angry because, you know, he was the one raising those other six kids at times, it seemed like.
yeah, and it seemed like he didn't even know how many kids there were, which is kind of wild. But
You lose count
apparently,
after a while.
Nadine Labaki had not made a movie like this before, so it may be sort of a thing where she'd always done regular narrative films,
Mm,
was trying to fit this new style into that structure. Obviously, this style worked very well for her because this is a beloved movie that made tons of money in China, which I still don't entirely understand why in China specifically. But um, anyway, since then, oh no, since then she's just directed one episode of a miniseries. This is pretty
yeah.
recent.
Maybe she is still working on, like she talked about the documentary from the footage of this.
Yep. But
Also, she does act as well.
yes, her
It
acting
looks like
is
she's done a lot more of that in recent years.
no more. But it
Well,
looks like the feature film she did before this was 7.4.
hmm.
Was that
Uh,
Caramel?
that's Where Do We Go Now? Caramel 7.1. So those
I
are
see. But
looks like she
that's
takes her time because those are 2007, 2011, and Capernaum is 2018. So that's like a decent amount of time in between films.
Wiki here just
mm,
says or states that a strong word of mouth on Chinese social media made it become a sleeper hit. So TikTok made
Hmm.
it popular in China. Okay.
I mean, I don't know anything about life in China right now. Might be people saw it and that they could relate to it in some way. I'm not really
hmm
sure.
I mean, I certainly don't know what the slums of Shanghai are like, you know.
Yeah, no
Um,
idea.
but that is the like that that is the one of the better points on our list that we're just going to end up running into corners like this that we never would have run into and never would have talked about it for an hour. So
Well, that's the whole point. That's the reason I'm still doing this podcast at all, because
Yeah.
I wouldn't even have watched Citizen Kane if it wasn't for this podcast. So yeah, there's no way I would have ended up watching this film unless it was played in a class I was taking.
I mean, even I wouldn't have probably watched this, and this is technically. I was kind of wondering if you guys were expecting me to absolutely love this because it's dark and
Nah, I knew
naturalistic.
you wouldn't because it's not depressing enough.
Well, it is
You're
according
right.
to some people, so I guess it depends on how the depressing fits in one's mind because some people seem to be quite depressed by it.
Yeah, not by Mark
Yeah,
standards.
yeah, not enough stabbing. I mean, yeah, he could have stabbed a few more people. That would have been fine.
Mm.
He's
You
um,
want the one where the 5-year-old has shot several people 20
Yeah, the
minutes ago.
baby should have got eaten by dogs.
yeah, yeah. I will be laughing heartily when Luke gets to watch City of God.
Any other big points you guys want to throw on this one, or should we wrap it up for the day?
Now we can wrap it up.
Well, it's nice to reconnect with my heritage. I'm depressed and sometimes I hate my life and feel like I'm in hell. So, you know, I see myself in this kid and would also I will stab you if you do stuff
Like
bad
joining our
things.
Patreon at
If I
podcast, where you get extra footage of us talking, and other podcasts like Time Enough Podcast, where I talk about the Twilight Zone, Podcast 1999, where we talk about Space 1999. Luke does some video games. Luke loves Pokemon. He'll tell you about the Pokemon game show with gamers gaming each other on the games. So I could not help but take up your segue to go ahead
no,
and
no, no,
you
no,
know
you're doing great.
you don't pass up that kind of opportunity. You know what I'm saying?
When you make a good segue, you always later go back and comment on the segue and
Yeah, but I
undermine
did the
it.
whole
Yes.
segue first, and now I want to comment on the ingeniousness of it. No, it wasn't an
Well,
accident. It's not a coincidence. I meant to do that.
allow me to comment on your segue. Nice segue.
Why, thank you.
I hope you ride it off a cliff like the inventor of Segway.
Okay, still get to say that's
I
I
right.
think I
That
didn't
is.
make that up, right?
No, it was
No,
the
you're
president
correct.
of this. It was the president of the company.
Close
It
enough.
wasn't the inventor, but I don't
Oh
care.
yeah.
I love
The
that
president
story.
is never the inventor these days.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't care. It's a great story, and I love it. And I remember like all the talk about AI now reminds me of when people were like, "The Segway is going to change the way that we live and get around." And I'm like, no, it will not.
No, I kind of like walking with my legs, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Also,
all
this
right with
seems like
it.
yeah, it seems also like it's a very dangerous to be on two wheels all the time. Like just I don't know, maybe two wheels side by side and rely on a like a servo sensor. Anyway, Luke, thanks for doing all that research. I'm glad you did because I didn't look up a whole bunch of stuff about this.
Yeah, I felt like this was a film that needed it, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna have fuck all to say otherwise.
Yeah. Oh, good news. Captain America 1990 is complete on YouTube.
Nice.
Good.
So I was thinking either that one's gonna be really easy or kind of difficult, but unfortunately, it's really easy.
Is the technically never released Fantastic Four on our list?
Is that one even
No.
watchable?
I used to
It
have it. I've
is.
got it on DVD in the UK.
Oh, okay.
Dude, that video store at Little 5 Points in the like late 90s had a copy of it. You could rent a DVD that was a bootleg.
What year was it? 94, 94.
It's later than you think. I think it was 96.
No, it's 94. I'm looking at it now. It's watchable on
Oh,
YouTube.
sorry. Because the first time I snuck into E3, they had a playable game that was based on it. And what happened was they canceled the game because they canceled the movie. And then the game quietly came out like 6 years later as a $20 title.
Did they bring it out to tie in with the later Fantastic Four films?
No, it just came out it just got dropped randomly somewhere. And it was a shitty like bunch of mini games. I don't know. It was for the first PlayStation. You can find it somewhere, I'm sure, but it's like
Insane.
it was not good.
Captain
But
America is in good quality, but Fantastic Four is in VH rip quality. But you can watch both on YouTube.
I mean, I'm not going to watch
So-
Fantastic Four if I have to watch it for the list. I don't think I even
Fantastic
managed to sit
Four.
through that disc that I had.
94, 1
No,
hour.
I was just
3.8. It's like close, but not there.
Yeah, I was just scrubbing through it, and it looks pretty not fun.
I don't.
Captain
I've
America
never
looks
liked a
pretty brown.
Fantastic Four movie, so maybe I should watch that one because
I
I
didn't-
That, like it was.
I actually was okay with the like Ian Gruffudd, Jessica Alba ones, but also I was 12 to 14, so
Yeah, those were. I bet if I watched that back to back with some modern Marvel stuff, I'd be like, well, actually, this isn't that bad because it doesn't like do the annoying things that Marvel movies do.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It was just at the time.
it does
Like,
the
I-
annoying things that superhero movies used to do instead.
Yeah, exactly. The
Like
cheap,
nothing looks like it does in the comics.
like it's
Actually,
clearly,
everything does except Galactus.
The
The
whole
Fantastic
yeah,
art looks like good. The characters look good. They just didn't bother to give you a humanoid Galactus.
the fact that they made Doctor Doom just like a guy who was kind of a nerd was annoying as shit to me, and that was sort of one of those things where it's like, well, we hate comic books, so we're gonna not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've still
comic book
never
movie.
had a good on-screen Doctor Doom. Because I fucking love comic book Doom.
Me
You've
too.
got to have like just mountains of cheese for Doctor Doom. You can't try and make him anything else.
Yeah.
Like, just make him a foreigner. It's like, I think they're just afraid to make him like from a fictional country, which is sure, I
Because
can
yeah, like
understand. Like,
from what I understand, Stan Lee's whole premise was like, what if they had to fight a guy with diplomatic immunity?
I mean, that is pretty frightening, but also it's like there you don't have to, like, Marvel wants to go as far away from the like Fu Manchu Mandarin thing as possible, which is like fine, you don't have to do what they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
it doesn't have to
like
be that, but like the idea of like he's the ruler of a foreign nation, the US government fucking toadies up to him because there's some import they want.
or just make up an accent. Like that's what Star
Yeah, they
Trek
they did
did.
it for Sokovia.
Yeah.
You move
And
Dr.
then
Doom
just
there if you want.
yeah, and then
You're
just
from Sokovia now.
slowly remove the accent as the sequels go on.
Well, that's why Quicksilver got out so quick. Didn't want to
Yep.
have to do that.
Good
Okay,
idea.
I'll stop the recording. Goodbye,
All
folks.
right.